Hello there from San Diego. Before we get started in full, are people able to hear us okay? Because we're using a new microphone here, and so hoping that it's all working smoothly. Any issues? Good. Yep, should be good.
Your background noise. Do you hear us talking though? You're just hearing.
Picking up.
Or they're hearing static noises. Hello. Yeah, my phone's ringing. They say you hear us. So okay, so if we're talking, you can hear us okay. Yes.
We've upgraded the microphones, so there's new things. And we've used them other places. We just haven't used them here for this type of live chat. So we will go ahead and go with it. So before we launch into things in full for this year, obviously, thanks for those of you that are already tuning in here. Love to see you here. We're going to try this year as we go on. We know more and more people kind of listen in or tune in on the lives as we go throughout the season. We're going to try and be a little more organized with the questions. And so we'll do the questions in kind of 2 segments today. So, and then we're also going to do, we found at the end of the day, we have usually like 100-ish or so, more or less, that turn into the lives, but then there's like a couple thousand that turn into the podcast versions or the replays. So we want to make sure it's organized for them too. So I just want to kind of produce it a little bit better, hopefully, for those people that listen afterwards too. Okay. So go ahead.
I just realized I didn't put the microphone out for the podcast recording that we were going to do.
Oh.
So give me a second. Talk for a second. Sorry. This was obviously, we don't do chats all the time, and we're trying to improve things and stuff, and so and then tech was being problematic before we came on, so give me a second to get this other microphone set up.
Yeah, we were getting no signal. We were getting signal for everything but YouTube Live as of like 10 minutes ago, so we had to basically uninstall and reinstall, which was just a weird little issue. So but yeah, so we'll do the questions in 2 segments this time around. We'll use a lot of the segments we used last year, a few new ones, a few different things as well. But yeah, feel free to throw questions in there. We obviously appreciate the super chats and stickers. So anybody that does those, of course, we greatly appreciate all of that stuff. And we'll keep an eye out for those and make sure to read your questions or prioritize them in those ways too. And then in the end, if you ever are into these lives but you miss them, obviously they'll be available for replay. And they'll also be, of course, in the audio only versions. We know some people last year said they like to just listen to them like on the flights out or things like that afterwards. So we'll still have them all for the audio only versions as well, so you can find them there.
But yeah, of course, feel free to chat among yourselves and answer each other's questions if we're not getting to it quick enough, or if you have the answer to something that someone's asked, feel free to answer. But yeah, among yourselves. But yeah, just give me a second. I'm still unwrapping the other mics. So
cool. Thank you.
That. And
all right.
Oh, for goodness sakes, I put the batteries in wrong on this one. Sorry, I'm a little flustered. Okay.
There we go.
Give me a second for it to turn on.
So with this, we'll even use throughout the season our intro that we use. If you're a podcast listener, you already know the intros, the outros, and things like that. We'll use all that, so it's just all in one production here then, okay? Good?
Okay, so it's good. So remember that you're talking to this other microphone now too. Okay.
All right. Welcome to Parks and Cons Companion Podcast and live show to the parksandcons.com website and YouTube channel where we discuss cons, theme parks, collecting, and other fun stuff. It is June 4th, 2024. I'm your host, Sean. I'm here with Carmel.
Hello there.
Parks and Cons is your on-the-spot podcast and live chat where we take you to the heart of the action of the best conventions and themed entertainment events around. Today we are recording in front of, or really in the Bayfront Park here in between the Hilton Bayfront for those watching us live, or in replay off to our left over here. Behind us, the San Diego Convention Center, and off to the right where there'll hopefully be a pirate ship in the bay at some point this year, as we've come accustomed to the last few years. We thank everybody that's tuning in, whether it's in the live chat or watching on replays or podcasts. We're excited to get the 2024 season back on start for us. Our friends over at the Unofficial Blog have been going pretty hard for the last few weeks. We'll actually talk about them and some of the stuff that they've had. All of the news segment, of course, is sponsored by them with all the things they find. But for us, this is kind of the kickoff of our season today as we drove down to San Diego. There was a debate. It was either going to be starting today or next Thursday. Next Thursday is more in line with what we do usually, but we decided this year to start basically about a week and a half earlier, a week and a few days earlier, to just kind of get things going. And so here we are in the Bayfront Park, and you'll probably see dogs behind us if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't see any now. But yeah, we just kind of a behind the scenes, the way we've kind of scheduled these out. So if you followed us on social, you saw kind of our hopeful schedule or our tentative schedule for June. But that schedule is kind of based around the Padres schedule because parking and everything gets very messy down here. So we're trying to avoid the Padres game. So we're trying to be proactive in that this year. We tried last year, but this time we're trying a little earlier to like make sure that we make our visits down here as conducive as possible to the things that we normally do. So that's kind of why that schedule is the way it is. But it is very much subject to change. So of course, follow us on X for any updates and stuff. So.
Yeah, 100%. And we may add in, sometimes we find out about things happening down here and we'll add in visits, and, we'll have a lot of other videos as well to go along with them. We'll kind of talk about that as we go through here today, the usual stuff. The goal is every year, this is, if you follow along with us, already this is our 10th anniversary. I've been covering Comic-Con for other sites before we started for probably about 4 years before that. So it's been 14, 15 years of covering San Diego Comic-Con. So we try to improve things every year. So we will definitely try to do that again this year. We are going to start out though today with our segment as we did last year with our day in San Diego. So we did come down here to San Diego, and what we'll share each time that we come in for these shows is kind of what did we find on this specific visit, if anything. And we really came down here with very few expectations because it's like still early in the season, and usually that first half of June, there's not a lot to see quite yet. We're not going to see lumber being dropped off for off-sites or things of that nature. But we also, during this time of year, find some new things, whether it might be new restaurants, new gaming things, etc., that come up. And that actually was kind of coming into the day. Now, a few weeks back, we were out here and seeing the new MTS Jumbotron, if we want to call it that, that's been added in front of Baja Rick's, the old, for us longtime Comic-Con fans, the Tin Fish area there. So we did come in today, we took some more photos of that, and we sent it over to our friends at the U-Blog, and they have a post up if you want to see more about the space scene. But I think just something to know about that. It is a new thing. It does kind of change the skyline view for Comic-Con fans. But in looking at that area, there's definitely room below it to still build an offsite. There's room behind it, but it is different. It definitely takes up a lot of space there. We've seen a lot of alcohol advertised in our few visits. We've seen some games advertised, so I'm guessing they're making a lot of money off of that. This weekend, they're advertising one of the booths. There's a bio conference going on at the convention center here, about 17,000 attendees, and they're advertising different booths there. I wouldn't be surprised if that's some of the stuff we see during Comic-Con, is that it becomes very much a high-priced space for some advertising in place of what might be, banners in other locations maybe, but it'll be interesting. I know that will be added to our list of like looking for banners, looking for wraps, looking for, digital advertising maybe in the years to come. So it's kind of interesting to see that be a part of this year's Comic-Con.
Yeah, and since we've come down here a few times and we have eaten at Baja Rick's, and they're just, we didn't eat there today, but we have eaten there in the recently, and we like the burger there. The price, it seems kind of comparable to me to the Tin Fish. It's just Tin Fish was never like super affordable or cheap. It was, a little pricey, and Baja Rick's is a little pricey, but the food is good, and what we've tried there we still like and stuff. And so, that we've eaten there, and it's been good.
Yep. We also checked out Arcade Monsters. If you saw on social media or if you followed, I feel like the first time we came across Arcade Monsters was maybe back in December or something like that, but the signage went up. And Arcade Monsters is kind of the thing I keep going back to in the vein of like a Dave & Buster's or something in that category, where they have gaming of all sorts, arcade games, Dance Revolution type stuff, all of those things. You pay a flat fee to go in, and there's a bar and all that sort of stuff. There seems to be a few locations in Florida. And so I did post on social some photos. You can find a link there to check them out. But they did respond actually on Instagram after we posted some stuff about them, you know, finally getting moving. They're having a job fair this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to hire, and the goal is to open. They said there's been holdups with some bureaucratic things in terms of governmental issues in getting things opened up. But they are actively working right now. So that will, for those of you that come down to San Diego, particularly before preview night, we know more and more people are making it a longer visit and coming out the Saturday before or the Monday before. It probably will be a really nice spot. Kind of like last year we had the escape room add into things. It's kind of a fun, kind of themed environment, a fun Comic-Con-y type thing to do. I imagine Arcade Monsters is going to be that for some people. So I will guess that we'll see a lot of people posting photos and videos and whatnot from Monday through Wednesday before Comic-Con even begins, of kind of their time in there and enjoying that. So Arcade Monsters is on the horizon here. I'm guessing maybe late June. There's actually video games loaded in there now. So I definitely think by the time we get to San Diego, it'll be well open.
Yeah, and I'm sure if it is open in one of our visits, then we will pop in and take a look and see what it looks like and let you know what we find in there.
100%. Then if you are a longtime viewer, listener, you know we are very partial and hence heartbroken that Lolita's has left us. Lolita's at the park, our favorite place to eat in the Gaslamp area. A big part of it, to be honest, I mean, we loved the food there, but it was so cheap. Like, we would eat there, especially on these trips where we're coming down frequently, and as we get closer to Comic-Con, coming down maybe 3 or 4 days a week sometimes. It was nice to go there, and the two of us could eat for like 25 bucks, even in these more expensive times, and like get some really good food. They had a great salsa bar, but they did leave. They weren't able to maintain operations there anymore. There still are Lolitas in in San Diego area. So Carmel and I will need to visit that on one of our other trips down here, but the space went dark, nothing was there. And then as we drove in today, doing a drive around kind of the Gaslamp to get our bearings and see what we could see there, we found that a new spot had opened there, and then found that there was an article online about them. It's Vega Cafe. They have, I believe, 2 other locations. It's a family-owned business that's been in the business for 22 years, I believe it is, and they are making it a go here. I think they opened like late March. We did stop by. We did a video of it, kind of like we did with Prince Street Pizza last year, so you can get a look at what it looks like. It looks very much like Lolita's inside, with one big difference: no more salsa bar, which was like my favorite thing about Lolita's. So the fresh radishes and the fresh salsas on display are no longer there. So that is what it is. It was pricier. We ended up, spoilers if you watch our video, but it ended up being $42 for about what we
And
spent.
we did tip, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course,
so,
yeah.
And it's interesting, they have...
It's counter service, but you tip, you can tip on the counter.
Yeah, and they have a different price if you do cash or if you use a card. So I want to say it was like $1 something
$1
difference.
Yeah, because we used a card.
About that. And both prices show up on the receipt, which is kind of interesting. And they do have a sign on the register that's basically says that there's surcharges. So, but looking at the receipt, that seemed to be like the only surcharge that I saw. Was just that it was a different price. We had paid cash versus card, and the food was good. It was very fresh. I tried the Milanesa torta because I do like tortas in general. For me, it was too big. I could only eat about half, but a lot of that was because the bread was like very thick, and the Milanesa was very thin relative to the bread. So I probably won't get that item again, but I did like the food that I got, so I'll try something different the next time. But the Milanesa torta, there was a lot of bread, but it was all very fresh, which was very cool. And then you got the taco salad?
Yeah, the taco salad was really good. The veggie taco salad, rice and lettuce. It was very fresh, tasted great. It was a very large shell. Much larger than ended up eating, but the contents were good, and I did like it. I just missed kind of having access to a variety of salsas. They do kind of their hot sauce type stuff. It's not really a salsa as much as like a hot sauce bottle type thing that they give you, and so it was good. And again, I know we'll go there a few times, but it's it's not like a substitute necessarily for Lolita's. It's
just completely different.
Yeah, but it's good.
So it's nice to have something there, obviously, because not having anything there you know, it's just an empty space. So, but yeah, I was excited when we drove by, and out of the corner of my eye, I like wait, there's something there. And so yeah, so we tried it, and it was very good and very fresh and stuff. And but yeah, it is tough when we're coming down here as much as we are, and what we're paying for gas to come down here, and what we, you know, spend on food and stuff. And so we'll, like you said, we'll come by. It was very good. It just, yeah, a little price, well, yeah, just pricier than what we had at Lolita's, and we were spoiled by that. But we took full advantage of it while I was here. So we've been on that note. We do appreciate this super chat contribution, and we'll get back to your question in a second. But so that does help. Will help us, you know, with the different expenses related to coming down here.
Definitely. And then we made our way across the bridge over, and now there's a lot of construction going on here in front of the bayfront, like major construction pipes and things like that.
On harbor.
Not the bayfront, but harbor itself. And in general, we always see that kind of in that May, June, particularly in June area, where the town seems to be kind of really sprucing itself up to get ready for then July, when there starts to be more of the wraps and things like that going in too. But right now it's a lot of like infrastructure type builds and things like that. The Omni, the entire right side of the Omni is closed off right now. Like when you walk in to check in, there's like a construction wall right there, and that entire right side hooking around the elevators is just all closed off as they're refurbishing that, putting in new restaurant, new food options, things like that. That's been in the works for a while, but as with most things, it's like what we saw when we came out here in, I don't know, April or May was like a little bit of work, and now it's like big crews of people working nonstop wherever we go. So we'll share obviously pictures of those things as they come along, and as we see more progress with all of those types of things and stuff like that. And then I think our last kind of bigger thing that we came across today, and if you do follow along, SD_comic_con over there on X, you can find them on Facebook as well, but our friends from San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog, is the MTS wraps, the first wraps of the year on the trolleys there on the MTS. And so it's interesting because Carmel was able to see it. It was too far away for my vision. So they have good photos and video and whatnot that MTS posted themselves, because obviously they're going to have the best view of it, but it is like buried behind a number of cars over here. And so on the bridge, I couldn't literally even see it with my own eyes. It was so far off, and she used her own eyes, but then also her phone to kind of zoom in, and you could see it from a great distance. Like, oh wait, that one looks a little bit different.
Like kind of parked, like I guess where they park the trolleys, and kind of like tucked away in almost like a garage type thing. So yeah, I was able to see it, and I was able to zoom in. But obviously, yeah, just go to the MTS socials and you can see it there more clearly. But it is cool just in general and exciting to see the first wrap already. I don't know if it's actually earlier than normal, and of course the blog would know exact dates, but it feels to me like it's a little earlier than normal, but I don't know if it is. But it's just exciting to see a wrap that's related to Comic-Con, because all these other visits and all these other times that we come down here, we see things for UCSD, we see things for Saquon the casino, we see things for all these things, and every time I see a wrap, I like double take thinking it's going to be something for us, and of course it's not. And so to actually get one that is exciting.
It's nice too, because Paramount Plus, it's a Paramount Plus wrap, so it's for Ghost, Tracker, and Elspeth. But it's also nice, we already know the Lodge is coming back. We'll talk about that in a moment, but that's, you know, like the first probably big offsite of the year that was mentioned to be returning or to be at Comic-Con this year. But if you follow kind of the media side of things, you know Paramount's not in the best place, like financially, and there's been all these different acquisition things. And so, you know, maybe this will be the Comic-Con where they really try to show off what they have to make themselves more attractive to be purchased, which is far better for Comic-Con attendees than this being the Comic-Con where they don't spend any money because they want to thin things up to be acquirable that way. And so we're still in obviously such a weird kind of economic time with all of these companies, but seeing that Paramount Plus is bringing it offsite and they've already invested in some wraps, it's nice to see. It's like, okay, Paramount Plus is definitely here this season, and that, you know, adds one to the list of like, okay, what studios will be here, what sorts of panels might come. And of course, just because they have an offsite and do some wraps doesn't mean they'll have panels, but it's just good to see them kind of like leaning into it this early as we await for what other news will pop up as we go throughout this season.
Yeah, and I assume it was Carrie for the blog said that the first wrap last year was June 7th, and the con was a week earlier, so it is definitely a bit early. Okay, so it wasn't just in my head. exciting that it's there already.
Cool. All right, next up, we will get into kind of the big news, and the big news is where we kind of talk about some of the bigger things, at least that hit our radar in the last week, or in this case, we'll go back a little bit further since this is the first show of the season here. And then after that segment, we'll get to your questions. So I know we already have a few questions in there, and we'll come to those. But in the big news, first off, as we already talked a little bit about, our friends, again, the Concast is back, our friends Carrie and James, and whoever takes the third chair from week to week, they are back doing their show, and there's a lot of great stuff there, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, a lot of interesting stuff. Just this last week with 42 West, you get some real behind the scenes of kind of how things come together. And there's also a lot of hints, like, for example, saying that this year to expect some cool stuff for 90s kids. And it's like, that's kind of a fun little clue. I think part of like enjoying the season of Comic-Con is all the clues that come together. And I know myself, I like add these types of things to lists, and it's fun to hear that type of thing. Just a little bit later on tonight, they'll be live, and they have Campfire on there, which was behind the incredible interview with the vampire last year off-site activation, as well as not too far from where we're sitting over here, the Animayhem, what they did there with that massive Hulu offsite behind the convention center. So there's a lot of news that comes there, and everything that we ever put in the big news segment always is kind of sponsored by them, because obviously they're the ones that are breaking all of those things. And so that being a big piece of this, they're on episode 5 there. Lots of good stuff there if you're looking for a Comic-Con fix and haven't already gotten that or already listened in on those. Then also, though, they shared first the Lodge returning. We already talked about that. If you missed that announcement, again, the details they have up on the site there. But part of what I thought was interesting is sharing some of the properties that are going to be represented there. Knuckles, Halo, Frasier, Lawmen, Dora, Mean Girls 2024 version, Bob Marley, One Love, Survivor, SpongeBob SquarePants, and Star Trek Discovery. So we know what we have there. I was disappointed there's no Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but that's a different topic. And maybe there still will be, but it's just, again, nice to see. And that's a big time activation. And it's unfortunately one you and I did not experience last year. We had a slot to go. We weren't able to make it happen, but I heard nothing but good things about it. And I think all of the positivity they heard about the Lodge last year makes me feel like we have to really prioritize it this year to get over there. But it's great to have one that was a fan favorite returning.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure it was all the positive feedback and stuff that brought it back. And so, yeah, I'm excited to hopefully do it this year, hopefully. And last year, I think we had a media invite, but I think there was a conflict or something, so we weren't able to get that. And then we had a regular reservation, and then that also we ended up not being able to do for whatever reason. So obviously, if you're not familiar, if you are new to Comic-Con this year, just things pop up all the time, and we ourselves don't generally know our schedule until pretty much we're in it, the middle of it, because we find things out. We get invited to things. There's different things that the blog finds. There's all sorts of things. So it is very tough to create your schedule ahead of time, but having a template, and we always do as we find things and as things get scheduled, we put it on there, but then things pop up. And so you have to be very adaptable and stuff throughout Comic-Con. And the more adaptable you are, the more you're going to enjoy the show. And those of you who have been there many years, you know that. But if you're new, just enjoy whatever happens to be in front of you, because there's things that you're not going to be able to do, things that you will be able to do. And it's all just, how did Carrie word it? A glorious blur, or I don't remember how she had worded it at some point, but it's all a blur, magical blur. And that's what it is. Comic-Con is a magical blur.
Yeah, and that's what makes it, it's what makes it what it is the fact there's few things in life that have so much excitement that you just don't know what you're going to come across with every corner you take, and that's Comic-Con. And so, yeah, but excited that the Lodge is back. Another big, I think the biggest, most prominent news thing that's been in the last few weeks, really, but is that non-stop commissions opening. We know we have a lot of friends that are big fans of getting artist commissions and supporting Artist Alley and all those artists. Our friend Andy over at the blog puts together this incredible massive list of all of these different artists that are coming, and supporting them helps them make their booths. Comic-Con is incredibly expensive for every exhibitor. Everybody we know that's ever been an exhibitor at Comic-Con, it is like a high-risk game in terms of the investment. As we know as attendees, obviously investing in hotels and stuff aren't cheap, but when you're you're there paying for a booth, on top of it, supplies, printing materials, etc. So those commissions, especially pre-sales, really help people out. So it's not any one single commission slot we wanted to plug here in the news. It was just to kind of note, I think that's something that this is a great time of year for that. And Andy and NetCrypt does a fantastic job of compiling all that together so that you have kind of a one-stop shop there to find that. And then lastly, in the news segment for this week, the NECA pre-sales have been announced. I'm always very partial to toy things. Toys and comics are what like first brought us to San Diego Comic-Con, and so exclusives are a big part of it. I will admit, exclusives have become less a part of it for me over the last several years as things have pivoted more to a lot of online sales and a lot of wide releases, and it's definitely not the same as the old days of camping out for the Hasbro booth or whatever it might be. But I still loved it and still always find things. Last year, the Alf figure, for example, with his Comic-Con bag or Space Con bag and all of that was fantastic. So we'll see what NECA has cooking up. No announcements quite yet on what they are going to have as their exclusives, but their pre-sale window is going to be June 26th through the 28th. And if past practices remain, you'll be able to do the pre-sale part. They'll ship out to you, or you can try to get it at their booth, which is what you and I have always done, and just kind of go to the booth and see if we can find it. We've never gone to their booth for the most competitive of items there. And I guess actually now I think about it, we've pre-ordered a couple things too. But anyway, it gives people kind of two options there. So that concludes our news segment. Not that there's not a lot of other news. Again, we suggest heading over to the ublog to do a rundown there. They're under the tents, all of that. That people all day, every day, you have our friends Aaron and Carrie and Andy and Kim, and all these people are working to gather up information. Kara's constantly sweeping everywhere, Keisha, etc. And so you can find all of that there. So with that said, let's go ahead and head over to some questions.
Yeah, so let's first go to Jacinto, who is the super chat. He said, hi there, this is the first time he's going to SDCC. He's gone to New York Comic-Con a couple times. What are your suggestions for a first-time attendee to SDCC? Well, there's a ton. There's a lot. But I think the first and foremost one is one that we've already said a few times, is follow the unofficial San Diego Comic-Con blog.
Well, and I think with that is like, this comes to a tip later, but we'll put it here since Jacinto's asking. And again, thank you for your donation, Jacinto. X/Twitter, like no politics involved, to me is a much worse experience than it ever was. Like Parks and Cons was built on Twitter, but it's still, even as much as it's fallen from grace, in my opinion, and not as good of a user experience as it used to be, it's still, for me, when it comes to conventions, there's nothing close to it. There's nothing that rivals it. There's nothing that works as well as it. And we've had the opportunity to cover several events this year where we've got to see it in real action. So something like Gallifrey 1, much smaller convention, only 4,000 people, but really going anywhere else to find information in that smaller convention where a lot less was going on, none of it still was as good as just going and doing a search of a hashtag Galley1 and looking through there. And gathering the information was so much easier throughout that WonderCon. Again, it came up just last weekend being at Monsterpalooza. Monsterpalooza doesn't even use Twitter, but again, I was able to find more about what was going on there than on Instagram, even though they as a convention definitely embrace Instagram more. So my number one for anything would be opening an X Twitter account. You can close it on, July 29th, whatever, the day after Comic-Con. You can delete it or whatever, but during the con, having that. And then, yes, following SD_comic_con for sure, because it is a one-stop shop. Everything is going to be there. Obviously, I'm biased that I think we bring a lot of stuff, so I'd follow along with us because I feel like we're going to be on the ground a lot over the next couple months, and we'll share a lot of content there. There's also a lot of Facebook groups. I know we have a Facebook group. We don't plug ourselves that much into it. We try to run it, and we end up like banning people when they're jerks in it, but we don't do a lot of like, hey, watch this. I mean, we'll do maybe a post here and there and stuff like that, but there is a lot of help in there. And a lot of times I'll see if somebody asks a question, they'll say, what are the best shoes to wear at San Diego Comic-Con? And it's been up for like 5 minutes and there's like 20 responses already that are like saying what those things are. Besides that, though, we do have videos from 2023 that are things of like what to carry in your backpack. We have podcasts going back as well. So kind of gathering up all of that info can be helpful too. But I think the thing, it's partly where we ever came in is I opened a Twitter account because I realized, I think it was in 2008, that there was a lot of things that went on at Comic-Con that I didn't understand or know happened. And the only reason I knew is that I went and then I found things like our friend Aaron was there and When Nerds Attack, and there was these different sites that would post things. And I'm like, oh, dang, there was a lot of info that we missed while we were there. And so then we made our own Twitter account, and then it kind of everything grew from there. So definitely suggest following along in those places, and yeah, finding yourself some time to maybe listen to some old stuff, whether it's from the blog or our podcast, or watching some of those videos, because you get a real good feel. I mean, we have, I think, 100 videos from Comic-Con last year up on our playlist there. So if you want to get a feel for like how crowded the show is or things like that, that will help too, to start getting you initiated into the con.
Agreed. And not to like plug ourselves, but if you were a patron, we do also, of course, put some extra attention. There's Patreon supporters in the conversation right now, and we do a walking tour, the morning of preview night, and going up to it. It is a more direct way to get questions answered by us and the other people in what we call the Parks and Cons crew, which are Patreon supporters. So that is also another option, just to plug ourselves for a second.
And thank you again.
Yes, thank you for the donation, the contribution. Let's see, Jeffrey Ramos is asking if anyone goes to the parties thrown around town. We go to a few here and there, but there are members in the chat right now that go a lot more. Definitely,
yeah. I mean, parties have never been my favorite thing in general, but Fandom does an incredible party. It's a tough one to get into. It's probably one of the toughest tickets in town, but it's a nice place to kind of hang out and relax and take things in. Over the years, there's been a lot of different ones that have come in. I mean, way back in the day, we went to the Playboy party and we met like Darth Maul there. And that was like a fun experience, and Nathan Fillion and stuff. So they kind of range in terms of like the types of parties and who shows up at them and things like that. But it's a big part for a lot of people. It's kind of the highlight of the con, is those parties in the nighttime. And I know I've never been kind of as much into parties. Like, I think in general, well, I don't think, I know in general, I'm much more introverted, and a party is not really my scene too much because it involves a lot of social interaction. And so I'm much more about like, hey, let's go to dinner with 2 other people, or just you and I, or things like that. But there are a number of them, and they're incredible. What Walking Dead did, what was it, the year before, and they really range. If you've not been able or not been to some of these parties before, they really range, because like that one, you did have a lot of the cast and Nicotero, etc., like making their way around the fans. And then you have other ones where kind of, if celebs are there, they're kind of up, on high. There are parties that charge, and that's, you can kind of buy a ticket and know that you are in for that event. And I know we have a lot of people in our Facebook group there that talk a lot about the party scene and kind of their favorite parties and stuff like that too.
And then as far as how to get into the fandom party, I believe it's generally been a post on social. It's like it's up, and then you rush to get it as quickly as possible. But if that's not the case, the blog will answer and will guide on that. So.
Well, and that goes back to, so we had a question on Instagram just a few days ago that somebody reached out, and they were like, they asked specifically about events like the Lodge. I think the Lodge is one of the ones they noted, and just like, how do you, I found out that I missed these things, and that comes back to the whole, like, I know a lot of people hate Twitter. I hate that. I hate that we call it X now. I like calling it Twitter, etc., but that is the place, because by the time any of that stuff usually goes to a Facebook, a Discord, etc., a lot of times tickets are gone for these things, or at least that's been the experiences of myself and a lot of other individuals we know. So
turning on the notification for the blog, you'll get a lot of them, but also you'll usually be notified pretty quickly as when things happen. As far as the food, we've really, I think, just done Baja Rick's and now Vega Cafe.
There's still Cena Cafe behind the Hilton Gaslamp, which is just a grab and go, like a 7-Eleven style place. But they do have really good sandwiches there. They prep, so like you take the sandwich and they would come eat out here, like on the grass or something like that. So it's not really conducive to like sitting down or anything like that. I know we like Spaghetti Factory quite a bit. We are going to do, last year it seemed people really liked, and looking back at like our analytics, people seem to like the videos where we took like a segment of Gaslamp and did a walkthrough, like a live of like, so we'll do that with like 5th and 6th and 7th and some of those streets again to kind of show, because there has been some repositioning, there's been some closures, there's been some openings. The ongoing saga of, will Buca de Beppo ever open over off of wherever it is? I feel like it's been like 3 years that we've been following the work on that place and stuff. So we'll do those as well, and we'll definitely let you guys know too if we find more places that kind of hit for us down here.
Let's see, and Abel is only able to get Sunday, but he'll be there the whole weekend. Sundays are a good day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every day is a good day at Comic-Con. There's always something happening in the panel rooms and stuff, and on the floor, of course. And then the rest of the time that you're not actually, if you don't have a ticket or the badge for the show, there's so much to do outside of the show. You'll not be out of things. You'll have plenty to do.
Yeah. All right. So why don't we'll come back to the rest of the questions if there's any more to hit, or if we missed them, if you want to throw them in there again, and we can come back to them in the next segment, or I'm sorry, the next question segment that we'll get to. So real quick, just to preview some things coming up here. If you didn't see our social post, we will be doing the next live on June 13th as it's scheduled. We'll have the Vega Cafe video coming up. We're scripting our videos for like the whole like off-sites and the floor, and obviously once the exhibit hall map is released, we'll do that as well. If there are videos specifically that you would like, it's always okay to reach out to us. You can find us on social or email us at comments@parksandcons.com. I know in the past we've asked our Parks and Cons crew over on Patreon and Mighty Networks if there's videos they want, and so we try to hit as many of those as we can throughout the season. And there's always a question, like last year we did a backpack video, people liked it. We hadn't done one in several years. I don't know that we really need to do that again, or maybe we do, so we'll kind of take those as they come, but definitely let us know if those are very specific things there. Also, we'll be starting our swag bags. We do some swag bag giveaways over on X that we'll do like contests there for those that maybe can't come to Comic-Con or they want to get some swag ahead of time. To answer the question that we get every year ahead of time, we will be doing prize drops once again, so you can keep an eye out for those as we will drop those throughout the event. We're going to go to our SDCC tips, but before that, we're actually going to announce, because it's very appropriate with what we're recording, our next sponsor for our 10th anniversary event. So if you follow along with us on social, this is our 10th anniversary of Parks and Cons. We're having an event to celebrate it with photo ops and food and a live recording of the show. It's kind of a retrospective of the 10th anniversary on June 30th at the Knott's Berry Farm Hotel. And so we've been selling tickets to that over on Eventbrite. And we've had the very good fortune. It's been really nice in doing this. Maybe the best part of doing this event so far has been like having sponsors support and give us things to give away and be like very nice to us about that. And so we've been posting on social, but this one we thought we would do on the live here because it seems so fitting. And then we'll post it on social as well. But our next sponsor of the event is Sweet Things San Diego, which is right off to the side here. So we know we have a lot of Sweet Things fans. They are giving us $100 in gift cards to add to our giveaways and our swag and things like that. So we are incredibly thankful of Sweet Things. We were going to have a Sweet Things cup in hand to show at this moment, but because of the technical issues we had, we'll have to get that after we leave here and go buy our Sweet Things. But we are very grateful to them, and we're going to announce a couple of the other giveaways real quick from some of the other sponsors as well. But huge thanks to Sweet Things. I don't think there's another small business in the area that we see that from the San Diego area that's like more into Comic-Con than them, or at least like they're like on the like aggressively fun, awesome, like yes we love you Comic-Con attendees. And it was so heartbreaking watching what they went through as we would come down here in 2020 and everything was closed and there was literally barbed wire out here and things like that. And so it's so awesome to see them be here still. It's so awesome to see how many of you all and all us attendees have gone out and supported them. And obviously we're very, very grateful to have their support for our event.
Yes, definitely. And I am very sad that I don't have my my drink in hand right now because it's very yummy. But yeah, with the technical issues, we just weren't able to do that. But yeah, definitely very appreciative to Sweet Things and to all the other sponsors and to the donations we've received through PayPal. It's been very humbling and like I don't know, it's hard to express the appreciation and stuff because obviously we cover things that we enjoy and stuff, and Parks and Cons, just to be clear, if you are new to listening to us, this isn't our full-time job by any means. It's our hobby, and so we have full-time jobs, and so to know that we've impacted other entities, and I appreciate all the thank yous and stuff that are in the comments now for the things, because we just kind of do the things and hope that people appreciate it, and people do seemingly. And so thank you for the recognition, and of course again thank you for all the sponsors and the donations and stuff. It's all very, very much appreciated, and very humbled by it all.
Yeah, to be fully transparent on the event, the goal is to lose $500. That's like very, very transparent. We talked about from the beginning, like if we could throw an event to celebrate the 10th anniversary and get a bunch of people together to enjoy, and we lose $500, that would be perfect. So definitely all the money will go into it. So
yeah, it's not a fundraiser. We're not like pocketing it. It's to cover like the food, and there's challenge coins and prints and lanyards and different things that that are being given away and stuff, just to make the event fun. And so all those costs, of course, add up. And so yeah, it's not like a big fundraiser or anything like that.
Next up on the sponsors, so we've been announcing the sponsors, but we've not announced like what they're giving, and some of them are doing different things in terms of like not just they're giving things, but we want to announce 2 more just on the show real quick. We want to thank very much the Comic-Con Museum. They gave us 8 tickets to give away, so that is going to be part of our event, which we were blown away by that they even responded to our email. That means a lot. I mean, Comic-Con is why we began Parks and Cons. There's a lot of nuances to the like journey of Parks and Cons, but like in the end, as I said earlier, like I opened up a Twitter account to try to understand Comic-Con, and so Comic-Con is at the heart of all things that we do, and so it means a great deal. And we love the Comic-Con Museum. It's been a part of like we visit them multiple times a year, not even just media events, just go and like buy a ticket and experience it, because it's like the best Comic-Con fix year round. So huge thanks to them. And then Toddland is another one we'll announce in terms of giveaways. Toddland, so much thanks to Todd and that group. They are sending us a big old box of Toddland merch to give away that covers across properties, so Bob's Burger stuff and Family Guy and the rest. And so huge thanks to any of these people, to Todd, etc., for even answering the email to sponsor, but then to send cool stuff. And so we hope those of you that are going to be able to join us or a part of that, that we'll be able to give you some really cool stuff. So
definitely. And for those of you who have purchased your tickets, thank you. We look so forward to hanging out with you. Definitely.
All right, let's go to our SDCC tips. So as we go forward in the weeks ahead here, a lot of the SDCC tips will be things that we've put on social and then we kind of elaborate on, clarify, answer questions to, etc. Going back to Jacinto's question, this kind of fits in there. Like these tips, I think we've put them together. We revise them every year. They change a little bit, and we throw them out there on social media to try to help. But I do have a couple here, 1 that we put up today and 2 that'll come up. The first one is just about enjoying this season. I am a big believer in like the build up to things is sometimes the best part of the things. And so I think Comic-Con, it's always like, to use Halloween, we talk about all the time, like to me, the least great day of Halloween, even though we're big Halloween people, is Halloween itself. Because once Halloween itself hits, it's like, that's the end of it. That's the last day. It was all that season leading up to it where there was all that great stuff. But the same thing for Comic-Con. I love every ounce of being at Comic-Con that Wednesday through Sunday, but like days like this and leading up and being able to talk to you guys and be able to find fun things and try to put puzzles together from little clues that are linked out, like I said in the podcast last week for the Concast, when they said, 42 West said, hey, there's going to be stuff for 90s kids. And you start thinking like, will X-Men 97 be there? Like, but the show already aired, and are they going to come out? Like, the season is so much the fun. So I know, because we do see, and that's a lot of times people we have to ban, whether it's on our own X feed or if it's in Facebook, or people that get really worked up and very kind of frustrated with different aspects of how other attendees do the con, or those things. But so much of this, I mean, it's obviously at the end of the day supposed to all be fun, but hopefully, really trying to enjoy that season. So going back to that question of like things for a first time attendee, like my number 1 suggestion is just trying to really soak up the fun and excitement, because it is like a Schrodinger's cat thing. Is like right now, Marvel's going to be here and they're not going to be here. James Gunn's going to show up and he's not going to show up. Godzilla's going to rise from the bay. He may not rise from the bay, but like everything's possible. And that's so exciting. It's so fun to be down here. And for all of you from home that are kind of thinking like, well, what is going to be in that spot? What wrap is going to be up here on the bayfront? And we can all make guesses. So highly encourage everybody to try to soak up the season, because those longtime attendees know once you hit the ground on Wednesday, it goes by so fast and then it's just over.
Agreed.
Then next up, I think this is a big one, particularly since the pandemic, is, and I was thinking about it because of you specifically and how I worded this time, but it's like starting to get yourself ready to embrace crowds. Because I know we've talked about this, Carmel has struggled a bit in the last few weeks at various events with like the flesh to flesh that happens at conventions, particularly a convention like San Diego Comic-Con. And so I know a lot of people are, generally, ourselves included, we don't really want to be in crowded, messy situations. We don't go and like throw ourselves into the middle of maybe a Black Friday sale, or, you know, mash into a line at the DMV if we don't have to. But it is a time to start thinking about how massively crowded Comic-Con is pretty much wherever you go. Everywhere we're at now, I mean, we wouldn't be able to sit here. We won't even be able to sit here the week before Comic-Con, let alone, you know, the week of Comic-Con. It can be challenging just to find a piece of grass somewhere to sit. And so, you know, thinking about that, like for us doing a lot of theme park stuff, it's kind of, I feel like, easy to adjust to crowds because it's just, we're always in crowds, even though neither of us really like them. But if you haven't, that definitely would be a tip to start kind of leaning into, so that when you come here, I mean, nothing is quite like Comic-Con if you're a brand new attendee, but at the same time, the more time you spend in some crowded environments, the more it might help a little bit to ease some of that, you know, I always call it like the Sunday shuffle is, you know, you're walking down row 300 or something. It's not even like a big, you know, major booth on Sunday, and you're like, well, Sunday's supposed to be the calm day at a convention, and you're in just a random aisle that's not like a big, you know, whatever booth, like a TV show or something, but you're still just barely moving because it's that shuffle. That is what Comic-Con is, and it's, again, because we all love it and we're all out here soaking up every minute of it. You know, going back to that question about Sunday, of course, you know, Sunday will be great because, and everybody's going to be packed in there just the same as Saturday or Friday or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to work on still because if you're a longtime listener or watcher or follower, yeah, crowds just, I struggle with them, and I have to kind of, it's not a literal switch, but I kind of like envision the switch in my head when it comes to like Comic-Con of like, okay, we're going into crowds, just deal with it and be okay with it. And there are many times that I do have to like kind of stop and take deep breaths to try to like be okay with the crowds and stuff. And over the years, I've gotten pretty good about it. But yeah, I don't know. There was the Comic-Con Revolution and I think Monster Palooza. There have been a couple shows recently where I have had to like take a time out and step out of the main exhibit hall and take a break because I was not dealing well with the crowds and the being bumped and shoved and stuff. And it's just something I need to get over with. And we will have various options or opportunities for me to practice with Anime Expo coming up, and I don't even know what else we have coming up, but yeah, it's going to be crowded, and there are shows at times, although none of these shows recently have I been inclined to put a mask on, but I do still take masks and stuff, and sometimes put a mask on if I feel more comfortable with that, because at my height, I'm always like right in front of where someone's breathing and stuff, and it's just uncomfortable for me sometimes. So yeah, the crowds are a challenge, and the sooner we can embrace it, the better off we'll be. And despite all my practice, I still need to like practice myself. So I'll be practicing with you all as well.
And the last one of the tips that I had here, and I already spoiled it going back to a question earlier, it just made sense to fit it in there. But the idea of, again, coming back to Twitter/X to use as a tool there, just, again, there's a lot of great platforms to share information, whether it's Facebook groups, Discord, etc. But in terms of that, like, it just went up right now. So much of that does happen. And I just haven't seen, again, and we cover a lot of live events, whether it's even the theme park stuff, when things hit, it's always still coming back to that place. So I just highly suggest, again, even if you hate the situation on X Twitter, just, you know, create an account, use it for a few weeks or months, I guess is what we're talking about here, and then just delete it on July 29th or whatever. But I know for us, we kind of keep coming back to it because we keep covering events that it ends up resonating there. And so we do use a lot of other places like Instagram, etc. But it's for the convention life and those things coming, that would definitely be a tip there. So let's go ahead for one more time to hit our questions, and then we'll go to our kind of wrap up.
Okay, so it wasn't a question, but the blog, and again, I think it's Carrie, clarified that last year the fandom party was a lottery. So it wasn't just a first come, first serve sort of thing. It was a lottery situation there. And I don't think, I'm scrolling through Spider-Man animated series Revive, maybe. It's all possible. Yeah, everything's possible now. And thank you for all the congratulations and the thank yous and stuff. We appreciate all that, of course. 100%. All right, then we'll wrap things up here. Our last segment, go watch this. This is where we'll
like catch people up later on in the season of things that maybe that we have on our YouTube channel that could be useful in getting ready for Comic-Con. At this point, I highly suggest our Comic-Con 2023 playlist, because there is a lot of stuff there, a lot of content there. And again, it takes you from panel rooms to the floor itself to all of our prep videos. A lot of people that have followed along with us for a long time know that, like, in terms of the prep videos, there are some things that don't change a whole lot. We have a lot of people, I feel like, especially in the last few years, that say, yeah, I feel like the prep videos have a lot of the same stuff as the year before, but I listen to them because they're like a tradition for me. I watch them with my family, and that's really cool that that can be part, like, that we can be part of Comic-Con traditions, and that's very, it's just so cool to think about experiences that kind of like can tie into that we're part of, like, your Comic-Con traditions. That's very, very, very humbling, as we said. Oh, one last question here at the buzzer. Experience under the ACE parking, do you get to pick your parking structure, or do they select it? You do pick, but it is by, so you enter the ACE parking, what is it, lottery there? Is that the correct term that they use? So. Yeah. And then you get a time slot, or a day, I should say, of when you can book your parking. So yes, you can book from there and what you like. We know a lot of people really love Bayfront. We've always really loved Convention Center. Even back behind Petco, some people have said they like that because it kind of gives some distance in terms of like leaving at the end of the night. Because I know one of the challenges, like the more immediate area, and you and I've been in it before, it's like if you're not leaving later at night, you kind of get stuck in that mash of humanity trying to get out of the parking lot there. Now, a lot of times, especially in the last few years, you and I have had late night things, so it hasn't come up for us, but there's been a few times where we're like, yeah, let's just get to our hotel room. And we, for those of you that have followed along for years, know we've like never stayed in the Gaslamp. It's definitely a bucket list thing to stay. It literally is on my bucket list to stay in the Gaslamp someday, and so I hope that we will do that. But we generally always stay, whether it's Hotel Circle, or last year we stayed somewhere out that way that wasn't in the hotel line stuff, but we stay on there. So for us, the car ends up being more important than the hotel because we are staying kind of further away. So. All right, then let's go ahead and wrap things up. We thank everybody for listening in and watching. To all of our live audience, thank you so much for tuning in, for chatting with us and sharing information there. We hope that you will follow along throughout this season. If you're interested in helping support the show, we have our Parks and Cons crew over on Patreon. You can send donations via PayPal, and we have our Storm Chasing 10th anniversary event coming up in June. You can find all of those at parksandcons.com. If you've not already done so, please leave us a like if you're following along on YouTube and watching, or if you are a podcast listener, please leave us a positive review on whatever podcast platform you use. You can follow along with us in real time at Parks and Cons on X, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and of course, YouTube. Wrapping up from the home of San Diego Comic-Con. Until next time, we'll see you all in line somewhere.